Doug Flutie joining us. Maybe you've heard of him. Played quarterback for the Bills, along with a very successful career in the CFL. Also played for the San Diego Chargers under one Marty Schottenheimer, who we unfortunately lost from the NFL family today after a long battle with Alzheimer's disease. And that's the main reason we've got Doug on today, to kind of share a little of what life is like as a football player on a day-to-day basis under one Marty Schottenheimer. Doug, thanks for giving us some time today. And why don't we start right there with Marty and what your time with him was like?
It was my second year out in San Diego, and Marty took over the head job. And, when he came in, we had just gotten Drew Brees, and Drew was taking over a quarterback. And I think more than anything, when you look at Marty, he was an organizational guy. He was a supervisor, an overseer of everything. And he treated the head coaching job as a teacher. And he was an English teacher in the past, and he was very cerebral, which was different for me because I've had some coaches that at one time or another were the in-your-face kind of coaches and the loud and the boisterous. But Marty was quiet. He said anytime he spoke, he meant what he was saying. The words were very efficient all the time. And I remember a couple of phrases that he used to bring up and that stuck with you. His number one thing was building trust within your team, and then eliminate doubt. He said, that's the reason for your preparation. That's the reason you watch film. The reason you practice is all in an effort to eliminate doubt so you can go out and play with confidence. And the other phrase that he always threw at you was, your best is good enough. As long as you give your best all the time, it's good enough to win. That you don't need a superhuman effort. Your best will get it done. And those were just some phrases and things that I remember pulling from Marty. One of my favorite all time was, I started that way, was saying that Drew came in and was taking over. And Marty wasn't really a Doug Flutie guy, a guy that thought, his impression of me was that of a scrambling quarterback, a guy that was just going to run around and try to make plays. And the first day on the practice field, I kind of made an effort to do this as well. It was a day where I threw the ball very well and the ball didn't touch the ground. And I made my hot reads and I was checking my protections and all that. And as I'm walking off the field, Marty walks over, wraps his arm around me and says, you do a lot of things well. And I think I sort of won him over in that day. And then, I was always the backup while Marty was there and Drew was the starter.
Yeah. And one of the things about Schottenheimer is he and I said this earlier in the show here, Doug, he struck me like you said, you and I mean, you grow up and you got all these guys that were yellers and screamers, the old school kind of coaches that were as my way or the highway, and it was this way. Marty was kind of in that generation of coaches who brought football out of kind of those dark ages into a form of leadership rather than authoritarianism. And I thought that was kind of the era in which he coached and had so much success. I mean, the guy won 200 games as a head coach and with 4 different teams. I think that's probably what I remember him most at, is he was more one of those first guys that was first, he was a leader and a teacher, and his authority went with the trust that he garnered. He was a pretty remarkable guy.
Really, when you talk about being a teacher, that's what he was. He was a teacher, and he was an organizational guy. He taught you how to organize your day, how to organize studying and film watching and everything else. And, I didn't know him as a player, obviously. And I think back, it kind of surprised me when I realized he was a Buffalo Bill and played, was a linebacker, wearing number 56 there. But there's the Marty I remember. Marty with the Browns and the drive that Cleveland had going and fumbled inside the 10. And he had he coached a lot of teams into the playoffs. He did a great job.
Last thing I got for you on Marty, because, you always heard about Marty Ball and this and that. How excited was this guy to use LaDainian Tomlinson in the game plan every week? I have to imagine that's got to be a dream scenario for the kind of style of football that Marty wanted to play.
Yeah.
You're giving me LT? Are you kidding me?
we worked around LT, no doubt. I remember as a boy, LT's rookie year, just handing the ball off to him and watching. My favorite all-time LT run was when you talk about his whole game. LT could pick up blitzes. He was an amazing runner with the ball in his hands. He caught the ball like a receiver and ran routes like a receiver. He could also throw the halfback pass, by the way. And so he was very versatile in our offense, and Marty knew how to use him. Marty's son, Brian Schottenheimer, became the offensive coordinator at that time. And my all-time favorite run of LT was handing off to him. We're playing the Patriots in San Diego. There were two unblocked guys in the hole. He started to bounce. He put his foot in the ground, did a jump cut right between the two of them, went up through the hole and took off for a 64-yard touchdown. And I just smiled. And I smiled the day that we were playing in Detroit, and I threw two in the first half, 2 5-yard little angle routes to LT. And one was a 60-yard touchdown and one was a 70-yard touchdown.
Jeez.
Yeah,
he just took off, split people, and yeah, we used every ounce of his athleticism and talent.
You're still staying busy. I mean, you've obviously, you win the Heisman Trophy in '84. Then you have a 21-year career in pro football, with both in Canada and in the NFL. And you end up you're with the Patriots, the San Diego. You're with Buffalo, obviously here. What were some of the things as you look back across it, and you talk about guys like LaDainian Tomlinson, you played behind Brady in New England in '05. What now? And you look at this. You were down at the Super Bowl this week in Tampa Bay doing the flag football thing. This game has evolved so far, and even in a year where it was different because of COVID. What are your impressions of where the league is now? How it pulled off 256 regular season games during a global pandemic. What are your thoughts about where the NFL is now and where it might be headed in the years to come?
Well, I was, it was such the year was so up in the air, and to be able to pull it off and get through the season and play everything. And then it became second nature by the end of the year of how they followed protocol and how everybody stayed healthy and to go through the playoffs and have a successful Super Bowl. Hats off to the NFL for pulling everything off. That was amazing. The way the NFL, the direction of the game, I love the style of offenses. I love the spreading it out and throwing the ball. It's a lot of stuff we did back in my Canadian days that has now filtered into the NFL, and I love that aggressive style. I do my own podcast. I actually had Kurt Warner on today, and he and I were talking about how amazing it is in that day and age of the NFL, this style, all the quarterbacks that are getting drafted, all these kids that are so athletic, that Tom stands in the pocket, delivers the ball, and almost makes it mundane and boring. You look back at this Super Bowl game, there isn't a play that Tom Brady had that will be being shown 20 years from now as just the unbelievable play that happened in this Super Bowl, right? It was just methodical, a couple of touchdowns, 3 touchdown passes, the ability to move the football up and down the field. There on that, you see him just drift to the right. That's scrambling for him. Yeah. He drifted to the outside of the pocket. And then this one is all game plan. This is the difference in Tom Brady, is looking at film throughout the week and game planning walk-in touchdowns. And this is, it's just him winning from the pocket that is so unique in the game today.
And by the way, it is the Flutie Flakes cast. I mean, that's the new podcast Doug's got, so check it out on all your podcast platforms. Doug doing his thing on the podcast side of the ledger there. But just with respect to Super Bowl week, you've got a house down in Florida. What's up with the Batmobile, though? What I saw these pictures. I was like, holy cow, he's got like one of the original ones. Like, we're not talking from any of the new, genre of movies. This is from like the 60s show that I used to watch, granted in syndication. Exactly. But where did you get your hands on that thing?
I was a fan of the show. Not necessarily a Batman geek or a comic book geek or anything like that, but I loved the Batmobile. And I stumbled onto a website that makes Batmobile replicas. And I laughed about it for like a year. My wife and I looked at it and joked. So I finally called the guy. Well, it wound up that he would take over 4 years to get it to me. And once I was hooked, I couldn't do that. So I started calling around. I found an old one out in California, bought it, restored it, put a new engine in it, and fixed it up a little bit. And I thought at first I'd just sneak, and I did. I just kind of snuck out at night and drove it a little bit and took it to a car show or in a parade. And then everybody knew I had it. So it's like, you know what? I'm driving the thing. And I started driving it around. And then people that know I have it requested it at a few of my appearances at Super Bowl. So I drove it across the state, drove it over to Tampa, and brought it to a few events.
Yeah. I try not to watch that show like now that I'm older, because when I was a kid, you watch the guys climbing up the building on the cables. It's like all they did was turn the damn camera sideways to make it look like they're going straight up the building. And it's like I try not to watch it because I know I'll just be disappointed as an adult.
You know what, though? The first season, if you throw in once I was getting the car and doing all this stuff, I went back and watched the DVDs. And the first season is watchable. It's funny. There's some humor to pick at and see. Then they tried a little too hard, and it's rough to watch. You get past the first half of the first season, and it's a little bit rough to watch. But it's really cool. I've become friendly with Adam West's agent. Adam West passed away about 4 or 5 years ago, and it's just really cool to reminisce about the show and get some inside stories from him. And I've got a bunch of memorabilia now, and it took on a life of its own.
Yeah, it's funny, too, because you think about it. With all my experience being at Super Bowls, playing in them, and then covering them for all the time I did, driving around the Batmobile is perfect. For the Super
I'll tell you.
Bowl. It is absolutely perfect.
There's a lot stranger stuff than that.
Big Papi had a event at Top Golf.
Right.
And they said, you got to bring the Batmobile over. You got to bring the Batmobile over. So I drove over in the Batmobile. And I pull up out front. And there's 3 or 4 Lamborghinis, there's a Ferrari, there's a couple Maseratis, and I pull the Batmobile into that group. Now, these other cars can blow mine away, mine's a 1966, right? But I've got a Corvette engine in it now, so it runs pretty good, but it's not going to touch. And it got more attention than any of the other. It's just, for people our generation, it's so iconic to look at. I mean, the first time I saw one in person, I just wanted to touch it. I just wanted to, this is, I'm 6 years old now. Looking at this every time I get in it or look at it.
Yeah, nobody can relate to most people can't relate to the Lamborghinis and the Maseratis and stuff, but everybody feels like they own the Batmobile, right? I mean, it's there.
Well, you had it as a toy as a kid.
So it's a whole different.
We all had the Hot Wheels cars, the little Hot Wheels Batmobiles, and no doubt. And you grew up with the show. I turned the back half of my garage, by the way, is turned into a 1966 Batcave. You walk into that, looks like the 1960s.
Because you got the pinball machine too, right?
I had over 2 years waiting for this car, so I was bored. I figured, you know what? I'm going to section it off. I'm going to air condition that area of the garage. Then I'm going to, I'll put a banner up. We'll paint the walls, make it look like a cave. People start buying it. It was an easy Christmas and birthday gift, some Batmobile, or Batman memorabilia. So it just kind of took on a life of its own.
And then how the heck did you get roped into the flag football game with these WWE guys?
Well, the WWE guys, now that's a whole different, can you see my lip?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, they're I play the flag football game every year. It's for Wounded Warriors. It's for the military. We've done this for 22 years. And we had a couple of WWE guys. Well, come out. I know nothing about all that. I remember Gronk winning the 24/7 title. I'm like, what the heck is that? And they're saying, well, what it is, at any time you can take the guy down and you pin him, you're the champ. So they're doing an interview and I sneak up behind him, put a little move on, roll him to the ground, and I pin him. I'm the champ. I got a belt. I got the belt. I'm holding it up, right? So we're warming up to start the second half. We're getting ready to start the second half. And I'm talking with it. Actually, I was taking some snaps and had the belt over my shoulder. He comes up from behind me, does the same darn move, dumps me, puts me on my back. The belt swings around, smacks me in the face at an angle. I got a line, a cut on my nose, a cut on my upper lip, a couple on my bottom lip, right? You can see it. And I couldn't get the stupid bottom lip to stop bleeding when we were playing the flag football game. So I was looking like a warrior for a little while. It was fun. Those guys are amazing. R-Truth is the guy I stole the title from and then gave it back to.
Yeah, cool. That was kind of cool, though, looking at the pictures. There's a video up also. It was a riot.
Doug, thanks, man. It's great hooking up with you again. Best wishes to you, and I hope we cross paths soon.
Appreciate it. Thanks so much. Good to see you.
Take care,
Yeah,
man.
we'll be taking a look at you or listen to you on that Flutie Flakes cast as well. Now doing a podcast. Who isn't doing a podcast these days, Steve? I ask you. But he's got Kurt Warner on, so be sure to tune into that on your podcast platforms. Our thanks to Doug for kind of shedding a little light on the kind of head coach Marty Schottenheimer was. Gone too soon at age 77. Steve and I back to wrap things up here on One Bills Live, presented by Kaleida Health. It's Buffalo Bills Radio.